What's up, everyone? Welcome back to 20 Minutes with Multz, episode 4, our second episode in 2 days. And in today's episode, we're talking about the 2022 ALCS. The Yankees took down the Cleveland Guardians 5-1 in the Bronx last night to advance to their third ALCS in 6 years. And once again, they're going to face a familiar foe in the Houston Astros. In this video, we'll do a deep dive into the Astros season, talk about their strengths and weaknesses, since we haven't really talked about them yet in any of the videos. After that, we'll talk about the Yankees and Astros ALDS performances. Then we'll talk about the roster moves ahead of the ALCS. Who did the Yankees and Astros add to the roster, and who did they take out? And we'll close it all out with a series prediction. All that coming your way in this video. If you like what you hear, please be sure to like and subscribe and add in any comments you got down below. I want to hear from all you guys. Thanks in advance for watching. Let's dive into that Houston Astros roster. The Astros went 106-56 in the regular season, cruising to an AL West crown and cruising to the top seed in the American League over the Yankees by 7 games. And those Yankees, well, the Astros went 5-2 against them in the regular season. Now, this Astros team just has gobs of talent up and down the roster. They still do, even though in the last few years, they've lost Garrett Cole, Carlos Correa, and George Springer to free agency, among other players. They still have the talent to win 106 games, and they're still the best in the American League by a country mile. Really a testament to the coaching keeping them up to that standard and the depth that they have. Now, during the regular season, this team was built a lot more on pitching than you would think. Not that their offense was bad, it definitely wasn't bad, but pitching was its core. Their lineup hit .248 in the regular season, good for 12th in Major League Baseball. They hit 214 home runs, good for 4th in Major League Baseball. And their strikeout rate as a team of 19.5% was second only to the Cleveland Guardians, who struck out just under 19% of the time. So this team will put the ball in play at a really high rate, testing the opposing team's defense. But now, you look at those numbers, they're great. Here's the pitching numbers, they are even better. Houston's staff had a 2.90 ERA, second in Major League Baseball to the Dodgers, led the American League. 9.5 strikeouts per 9 as a staff, 4th in MLB. 0.83 home runs per 9 innings allowed. By just a tiny fraction, that was second in baseball to the San Francisco Giants. They led the American League in that department. So, in summary, they don't give up a lot of runs, they strike a lot of guys out, and they keep the ball in the ballpark. That's pretty bad news for a New York Yankees team that strikes out a lot and is incredibly reliant on home runs to score their runs. That tends to be a pretty good matchup for them. Now let's take a look more specifically at a few of the players the Astros have and how they shape up against the Yankees and in the playoffs. I'm going to focus mostly on the hitting because we know what the Astros pitching can do. They've been dominant all season, and it wasn't just against the Yankees. But here's how some key Astro hitters have done in their playoff careers and in their careers against the Yankees. Let's start off with the guy who's been at the head of this since 2017, Jose Altuve. A .275 career hitter against the Yankees in 59 games, but in the playoffs, Altuve is an animal. A .272 average, but 23 homers with an .868 OPS in 82 playoff games. Wow. Just wow. He turns into another person in October. Let's talk about Yuli Gurriel. .276 with 3 home runs in 32 games against the Yankees. Just a .260 hitter with a .702 OPS in the playoffs. Kyle Tucker hit .237 with 2 homers and an .841 OPS in just 13 games against the Yankees, but in the playoffs, a .277 hitter in over 40 games. Alex Bregman, 5 homers in 32 games against the Yankees in his career, but just a .232 average. And in the playoffs, it's pretty much the same. .232 average with a .751 OPS in 76 games. And then here's the big one. This is the guy to watch out for the entire series. He was the guy who destroyed the Seattle Mariners almost single-handedly in the ALDS. That's Yordan Alvarez. Alvarez has a .310 average with a .707 slugging percentage, 7 homers in 16 career regular season games against the Yankees, and is a .276 hitter with 5 bombs in 37 playoff games for Houston. If you can keep him in control, then it's going to be a lot easier of a series. But that's just about the hardest thing to do. There's a breakdown of some key hitters for Houston. A lot of them have good numbers against the Yankees, but some of them don't have the best numbers in the playoffs. And we'll see how that translates in the ALCS. But here's how the Astros did in the ALDS, And then we'll talk about the Yankees and how they did against Cleveland in the ALDS. So Houston got to the ALCS largely on the back of their pitching. And it was pretty much everyone but the face of that pitching staff, Justin Verlander, who led the way. Verlander got clocked by the Mariners in Game 1 of the division series, 6 earned runs in the start. It was arguably his worst start of all of 2022. But after that, that's really where the pitching woes stop. Their bullpen was ridiculous in this series. Brian Abreu did not allow a run in 3 appearances. Luis Garcia had a 5 scoreless inning outing in Game 3 in that 18-inning marathon. He gave up 2 hits, didn't give up a run. Rafael Montero, 3 total appearances, scoreless. The rest of their bullpen, Ryan Stanek, Ryan Presley, Hector Neris, Hunter Brown, combined for 7 appearances and 7 1/3 scoreless innings. Lance McCullers Jr. provided a scoreless Game 3 start, and Framber Valdez gave up just 2 runs in Game 2 in a start he would ultimately get the win in. So simply put, Houston's pitching staff was ridiculous. Their lineup had some good contributors as well. Yordan Alvarez had the huge home run off Robbie Ray, and I talked about this. Robbie Ray for the Mariners in any playoff situation, just because of the home runs he's given up, was a dangerous matchup. And Yordan proved it walking off Game 1. He homered again in Game 2. Really an impressive performance all around from him. Jose Altuve, we talked about him and how well he had been doing in the playoffs. Well, this year, he's really struggling. He's 0 for 16. Yes, 0 for 16 with a walk so far this October. Some other key guys doing well. Alex Bregman's batting .333, Yuli Gurriel's hitting .400, and Chas McCormick is hitting .286. But they need Altuve to step back up, and they need the bottom of the lineup to step up too. It can't just be Alvarez, Bregman, Tucker, and Gurriel. You need a little bit more than that. And of course, the last guy we got to talk about is the outstanding rookie from this season, Jeremy Pena. Pena homered in the 18th inning to give the Astros the 1-0 lead they would need to win, hitting .250 for the entire postseason. But that big home run, that's his shining moment. In the ALDS, the Astros got the job done against the Mariners, and they're going to need to keep up that pitching performance against the Yankees. They can't afford to slip up because the Yankees are flying high after coming back to win their matchup against Cleveland. It may have taken 5 games with a couple of rainouts getting in the way, but the Yankees took down the Cleveland Guardians in the ALDS 3-2. Almost as my prediction indicated, I had it 3-1 Yankees. I'll take the credit for the series win and the chance to talk about the Yankees in the playoffs even more. This was a pitching-heavy series, especially for the bullpens. Cleveland's pitching staff as a whole held the Yankees to 6 hits or fewer in each game, but they could not stop the Bronx Bombers from hitting bombs. Oswaldo Cabrera and Anthony Rizzo had a homer. Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton each had 2. And as we all expected, Harrison Bader led the Yankees in this series with 3. Now, Cleveland's bullpen, they did a lot of the heavy lifting in this series and were almost blemish-free. Just a few runs given up, 2 by Sam Hentges and 1 by Trevor Stephan. Stephan's run coming in Game 5. Other than that, Stephan was brilliant, James Karinchak was really good, Emmanuel Clase was unhittable, Aniel De Los Santos was unhittable, and Cody Morris was unhittable. Just like I talked about, Cleveland's bullpen was their biggest strength, and they showed it. But the starting pitching got hit in every game, and the Yankees did just enough damage to win. Now, for the Yankees' part in their bullpen, the mismanagement in certain situations nearly got this team eliminated, specifically in Game 2, where Jameson Taillon came in out of the bullpen instead of Clark Schmidt, and Taillon ended up giving up 2 runs. And before that, guys like Lou Trevino and Jonathan Loaizaga, each pitching less than 1 inning, when both have proven time and time again in the regular season they can pitch more than 1 inning. And then in Game 3, a disastrous bullpen situation where, again, the big guys, Loaizaga, Trevino, Clay Holmes, unavailable in that game. Wandy Peralta pitching way more than Trevino and Loaizaga. He ended up getting 7 outs because, well, Aaron Boone's decision-making was ridiculously bad, and they ended up having to go to Clark Schmidt one day after not trusting him to start a meaningless bases empty extra inning situation. He had to come in the bottom of the 9th with the bases loaded and practically do the impossible. Face Josh Naylor and Oscar Gonzalez and win the game. And as we know, he couldn't do it. But then in the final 2 games, Garrett Cole stepped up and the bullpen was managed much more correctly, and in Game 5, Boone, thanks to the extra off day in between, had the chance to completely reset. Get 2 innings out of Loaizaga, Clay Holmes was great, and Wandy Peralta, who I think was the MVP of this bullpen in the series. He pitched in all 5 games, and in 4 of his 5 appearances, they were scoreless outings. Now, I mentioned one name in there that we got to talk about a little bit more. Gerrit Cole. 13 innings pitched, just 3 earned runs allowed, with 8 strikeouts in each game. He was as advertised, pitching ace-like performances in Games 1 and, of course, the do-or-die Game 4. We can put the Gerrit Cole playoff narratives to rest for a while after this, especially if he does well against the Astros. He did everything you could have asked from him. Luis Severino battled back in an enormous way in Game 3. After it seemed like he was going to leave after 2 innings, he ended up almost pitching a quality start. Nestor Cortez was solid in Game 2, really not great, but he bounced back in a huge way in Game 5 to give the Yankees 5 innings of 1-run ball and turn it over to the bullpen. All told, pitching got the Yankees to the ALCS. Now they get no days off, a quick turnaround. Let's dive into that ALCS and see who the Yankees and Astros added and took off of their rosters. Now, one thing that was expected for both of these teams to do heading into the ALCS was add a 13th pitcher. Both teams carried 14 position players and just 12 pitchers to the ALDS, partly because it was a 5-game series compared to now, which is a 7-game series, but also with 2 off days originally built into the ALDS schedule, you could carry 3 starting pitchers that you were going to use in the rotation. Not the case now, since it's 2 games for 1 and 2, then a day off, then the final 5 games are played straight through, 5 games in 5 days. For the Astros, their change was really simple. Outfielder Jake Meyers is out, pitcher Seth Martinez is in. Meyers was 0 for 2 with 2 strikeouts in Game 2, the only game he started, and had a pinch running opportunity with a run scored in Game 1. Seth Martinez was really solid in the regular season, a 1-1 record, 2.09 ERA, 38 2/3 innings pitched with just 3 homers given up. But one of the 3 homers was a walk-off 3-run home run in extra innings to Aaron Judge against the Yankees. That, of course, came in the 4th game of that series in the Bronx. But the good news is there's no ghost runners in the playoffs, so Martinez won't be put in as bad of a situation if he has to pitch in the ALCS. For the Yankees, the situation's a little bit more complicated. 3 players are out, 3 new guys taking their places. The first one that's out is an obvious one, Aaron Hicks. Hicks injured his knee, colliding with shortstop Oswaldo Cabrera in the middle of Game 5 yesterday. A tough break for Hicks to be off the playoff roster. He wanted to stay on it. He had been trying to be as much of a team player as possible in the playoffs after a real tough regular season, where he hit just .216 with a .313 slugging. But he's out. Also out is Marwin Gonzalez, the utility guy, switch hitter, a good defender, but an atrocious hitter. Hit just .185 with a .576 OPS in the regular season. He had only appeared in 1 plate appearance in the ALDS, and it was the 1 at-bat he had taking over in left field for Aaron Hicks. The third guy off the roster, this one's kind of interesting to me. It's Lucas Litke. Litke had an ERA under 3 in the regular season and was one of the steadiest arms in that bullpen. But he had a whip of nearly 1.4. That means he put a ton of runners on base, which you don't really want against an Astros team that can really, really score. But they also have some key lefties in that lineup. I talked about the lefties in Houston's lineup, namely Yordan Alvarez and Kyle Tucker. Now the Yankees are entering the ALCS with 1 lefty reliever in Wandy Peralta. Obviously no Aroldis Chapman, and now no Lucas Litke. Really don't get the move, but we'll see how it pans out with the 3 guys the Yankees added. The first guy they added was shortstop Oswald Peraza, a top 50 prospect in baseball. The Yankees fans were begging them to do this after Isaiah Kiner-Falefa's bad defense and costly mistakes led to him getting benched for the final 2 games of the series. Peraza hit over .300 with an .832 OPS, 6 walks and just 9 Ks in 18 games in September. He showed a lot of promise and a lot of poise. Now we'll see if he ever steps onto the field, if he might get some starts. I hope he does. The only thing he can do is add speed, great defense, and great contact hitting. And the 2 pitchers the Yankees added to compensate for 1 being taken out of the roster in Litke and needing to add a second one to get to 13 total pitchers are Greg Weissert and Frankie Montas. Ron Marinaccio is unavailable, still battling that shin injury. That's devastating for the Yankees. Marinaccio had an ERA in the low twos, great changeup, slider, fastball mix. You would have loved to see him be there as a high-leverage reliever. Instead, it's Weissert and Multz with Miguel Castro surviving the cuts to make it to the next round. Weissert had an ERA over 5 and 11 1/3 innings pitched, but a whip under 1. So if he can keep the guys off the base paths, he's got great stuff. Changeup, slider, four-seam sinker, 2 different fastballs. I liked his stuff. I really did. But obviously, he had a bumpy road in the chances he got. And Multz, talk about bumpy roads. An ERA of over 6 in 8 starts. Multz was injured when he was acquired with a shoulder problem, and that problem came back up once he got off the IL and joined the Yankees. He missed the rest of the regular season, and now he's back. I have no idea what he can even add to the table here. Multz didn't pitch well, and I don't know when he would come into a game. I really don't. I would not give him his first test unless it was garbage time. And the only garbage time that I would expect to see in this series is if the Yankees are getting blown out, not if the Yankees are doing the blowing out against the Astros. So there's the roster adds and subtractions for these two teams. A couple of notable things for the Yankees. I talked about Marinaccio. Andrew Benintendi's ham 8-bone injury that he suffered in early September had not healed yet. He's not back. DJ LeMahieu's toe injury clearly taking a big enough toll on him that they're not bringing him back either. Devastated to see Benintendi not back, but I'm actually happy that LeMahieu is not back and Peraza's added maybe in his place. LeMahieu would not have been able to do anything at the plate, and the Yankees can only carry so many guys that are basically substitutions, late game replacements on their roster. So there's the full add to it. Who the Yankees have on their roster, who they took off, who the Astros have, and who they took off. Let's close things out with the series prediction. Let's wrap things up here. Let's get right to it. How do I think this series is going to go? Well, I got to favor the Astros in this one. Sorry to the Yankee fans out there. I'm one of them. I don't say that happily, but I just think it's true. The Yankees are coming off a war of attrition of an ALDS against Cleveland where they really had to run the gauntlet. They have no days off while Houston's had quite a few since they swept the Mariners in 3 games. And frankly, Houston is just more talented. The Yankees are going to have to face Justin Verlander, Lance McCullers Jr., Framber Valdez, and Christian Javier probably as many as 6 times total starting games in this series, and that's brutal. None of those guys had ERAs over 3. Their bullpen is loaded. Their lineup is super talented. And the Astros own the Yankees in the regular season. I think the Yankees can pull off 2 wins here, but Houston is going to take this ALCS 4-2 and once again return to the World Series, where we'll see if they're going to face the Padres or the Phillies. Either one of those opponents, they'd be hugely favored over. But that's going to do it for episode 4 of 20 Minutes with Multz. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Once again, like and subscribe. Leave any comments down below. What do you think about my takes on the roster additions and subtractions for these two teams? What do you think about my takes on the ALDS performances or the Astros roster as a whole? Leave it all down below. Episode 5 will be coming later this week. I'm Daniel Multz, and I'll talk to you guys then.